could have given up, but you didn't. You could have stopped believing, but you didn't. You could have kept living their expectations, but you decided to make this life your own. And in turn, you're here. Hello, everyone. Today we're meeting Donna Tashjian. She is a speaker, a life coach, and she's also a podcast host at her own podcast. It's called You Were Designed for Greatness. Hello, Donna. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Anna. It is a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Let's start our conversation with diving into your story of becoming the person you are today. What led you to discover your own true passion in life?
Well, that's a little bit of a long story, but it is something coaching. I probably wouldn't have called it coaching when I very first began, but helping people to rise above adversity and to live their fullest life is something that I've always had a part of doing. In every job I had, in every organization I started or I volunteered in, it was always a part of what I was doing. And how Vibrant Living began was I guess it's about 10 years ago now. I was working at a nonprofit and thinking it was going to be my dream job. I thought there had been a lot of other activities that I was involved in, but thinking that was going to be the avenue where I could touch people's lives in a deeper way. And it was going pretty well for a little while. And then the management changed. And you know how we tenaciously hold on to something that's good and we can't get the better because we're holding on to it. And so many times, and so it was good, and then it started to not be good, but I was still tenaciously holding on because I had put all my eggs, if you will, in that basket. And this had to be it. I didn't know what else to do. But anyway, I remember the day, I remember the hour, all of those kind of things of when I actually walked away from that job. And to say that I was at a low point, feeling very lost, a lot of self-doubt going on at that moment. But I say now that was one of the worst days, but the best days too. Because if I hadn't let go of what had been good, I would not have found how to live vibrantly in the capacity that I have today. So learning how to let go of that has been part of the process, and Vibrant Living was born out of that.
That's beautiful. And a lot of people could see themselves in your shoes as well. We so much hold on what we think is good, but at the same time, we don't feel that, like you said, vibrant living. And that's what we should feel all the time, that we're alive. And if we're doing just automatically every single day something like robotic, where we don't feel that fulfillment and that purpose, why we're doing it in the first place. And that what doesn't motivate us to continue doing that certain type of career that we're still in, and we need to find a way out. So usually, like with us questioning why we're doing certain things in life and why we're feeling this way. And this is how it starts with diving into a deeper connection to ourselves and finding that voice that needs to be heard. So let's talk about other people trying to find that kind of like way of expressing themselves, and what could be the first step for them to find their inner voice, to find their passion? What would you advise them to start with?
Well, one of the big first questions is what would you like? We don't give ourselves permission rarely, I'll put at least a caveat on it, rarely do we give ourselves permission to do what we would really love. And if I had been super honest with myself, that job didn't have everything that I would love. There was just a few things, but there was a whole lot that I didn't, and that I was holding on to that tiny little bit, trying to make it work. And so what would you love without doing what our mind does and say, well, that's not possible because whatever the qualifications are. So it's entertaining the idea, first of all, what would you like? What would you love? What would be your best day? How would that look? What would you be doing? What would you not be doing? Which is an easier question to ask. And so that would be the first step, is asking that question.
Right. And I think that's the first thing that we should focus on. What exactly brings us that joy? And with knowing what that, kind of like activity is, or maybe you could start as a hobby as well, we can look more into detail of what that encounter. Do we have like all the skills and abilities to start doing that certain type of activity right now? Or is something missing? Or maybe we miss some kind of qualification in terms of like learning, studying certain area of that career. And if that's the question, then we know the next step. Also, a lot of people, I feel like they being attached to a certain role that they play in life. Let's say they finished certain type of education because their parents told them to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel like it's not what they want to do for the rest of their life.
Right.
But they already finished it. They already spent so much time into that, and maybe even some money, and what that comes out as a type of like some kind of debt they need to pay off, or whatever that means for them. But it's also mentally you feel that pressure that I spend so much time, so much money, and this is my role. How can I change it just like that? This is who I should be now for the rest of my life. And you feel some kind of obligation to it.
Right.
And it's hard for you to kind of switch that mindset and see other opportunities. And you don't have to be that person. And maybe it wasn't even you in the first place. So you should be able to see what else is out there, and also tune in with what makes you feel alive, what brings you that joy, and find that next step for you.
If I may, I'll share a little bit more of my story of how I discovered all of that. I was looking over my life at that point and saying, what is it that I really love to do? And that, as I said, and that's kind of a hard question. And what I saw was this visual, as if looking over my life, and all of the places where I felt the most alive. I call it your sweet spot, your area of genius. And every time I felt that way, I was looking as a visual over my life timeline. I was sitting with people, talking with them and helping them, encouraging them, supporting them, those kind of things. And so I'm asking myself, well, how do I do that and make a living? Because I grew up in the time frame when I started, coaching wasn't a thing like it is today. It was called mentoring. And I had previously done it all as a volunteer. So in my mind, is this even possible, right? It's like all of the limitations that we put on ourselves. So I'm like, okay, so that's what I want to do. So I ask. I'm a woman of faith. So I asked God, I asked my gut, I asked intuition. So how do I do that? And then I came across becoming a coach. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be a coach because my image of a coach was the football player or sports player yelling at people, trying to get them to work harder. And I'm like, that's not me. So I'm like, I don't want to be a coach. And so then I had to take another step. Well, what does that mean today? And so through that process, having just lost a job, I went back to school to learn how to do what I was naturally gifted at even better, to improve. Now I've got a wall full of certifications and all of those things, but it was, I call it follow the breadcrumb. Just ask the question. So what do I do next? So what do I do next? And it got to a place where I say, I had to say, Geronimo, I'm going to do this. And I have no clue how I'm going to pay for this school. I don't know if this will work, but I love this. And I know I feel alive, and I know that I want to. And so, but I was still working other jobs. There were still other things going on. My husband and I had our own business. There was a whole lot of other stuff going on. So it doesn't mean that you have to turn your back on everything you're currently doing, but just begin to ask the question. For some people, it's not starting a business, it's volunteering. It's just impacting in their community. It's writing a book. It's starting a podcast. It's helping in their community, whatever that may be. What makes you feel alive? And while you grow in it, keep doing what you're doing. And then let's start to eliminate things as you grow in confidence. One of the biggest keys that I'll share that I learned was confidence. We want to just be confident, right? I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to be hesitant. But confidence is a capability we build over time. It's not something we magically feel. The first time anybody speaks in front of public, the first time you and I did our first podcast, we were nervous. We didn't know what we were doing.
Definitely.
And so it's learning that confidence is a capability you build over time. Not something you magically feel. It's something we grow in. I look at my first videos compared to today, like 7 years later. Holy moly. Anyway, so just follow the breadcrumbs. Begin to ask yourself. And the other thing that helped me is I got a coach, because I don't see my blind spots. I don't see those hidden beliefs that I keep sabotaging myself with, going, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. I've never done this before. What if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if this? What if that? All of those things, we don't realize we're doing it because we've been doing it so long. So get support. Find someone, because you cannot see your blind spots yourself. And so that was the other thing that made a huge difference in my life.
Right. And like you said, self-confidence is something that we grow into. We need to see that we are able and we can do it, with us doing those small little changes in our life and implementing them in our daily routine, like habits, let's say. And we see that there is an evidence now that I just did it, so I can do something else, and eventually that self-confidence grows within you without you even realizing it. And then you see yourself being in a different place.
Mm-hmm.
But with also working with a coach, they could help you to see those blind spots. And again, if you were not able to do it yourself, maybe you need that extra help. You need that another point of view, different perspective from what you're doing, to kind of like shine that light on what's not been working. And now with that knowledge, you can also make those changes more intentionally, and knowing that, you know, this is what's been holding you back. So,
and anyone that you admire in any field, sports, music, business, anyone that you admire that is successful, they have a coach. The people that DIY it are the ones that struggle. And so anyone that you can think of, I won't drop any names, but whoever comes to your mind, they've got a coach to be able to improve and grow. So it's it's not a weakness. It's a sign of wisdom. It's a sign of strength to be able to have someone else help us, because we're not meant to do this alone. So I'll just drop that there because it's been amazing for my life.
Yes, and a lot of people think it's a sign of weakness when we ask for help. In this society, I mean, right now it's getting more open where we start talking about it, but especially like early in the days, it was kind of like a taboo topic, and that mental health area, it was just something, something crazy to talk about. Yeah, how can you even mention that? But now we realizing that this is what's driving our lives, and this is what the actual, that's the engine, or that's driving in the background with you realizing it. And you have to find out why you're doing certain things. And with you working with a coach, it's just it's so beneficial for you to become that person that you meant to be, that you were born to be. And again, like prioritizing your mental health, that should be a first thing for you to focus on. And I feel like mental health is even more important than physical health, and they're very like connected to each other.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
And with us knowing that we have to do it every single day and check with our, feelings, and talking to our coaches, or maybe even like we have accountability partner to keep us on track with what we're doing, and implemented those small little habits on a daily basis, that what could, bring us to a different place. Is there some advice you would give to others in terms of, tips that they could utilize on a daily basis to help them break from that feeling of being stuck?
Yeah. Well, one of the things is you mentioned habits. And for this year, I've developed a program called Empowering Habits. Most of the time we set goals. We're dealing with the goals and not the habits that it takes to accomplish those goals. So that's something that would be available to the listeners if they would like to contact me to learn more about empowering habits. That would be getting, it's a video program that would be able to get you some support without a big investment, perhaps, because that's one of the number one things is, I don't know if I can afford this. When the question is how can I afford not to, is the better question most of the time. And the other thing is that helped me is getting up every day. When I asked my coach, what was the best advice she could give me? And she said, get up every day and proceed as if success is inevitable. And I created that as one of my morning declarations. I'm going to get up today and act as if this is going to work, as if success is inevitable, because our brain wants to list all the things that this could go wrong. And when you push your focus back to, I'm going to act as if this is going to work, I am going to proceed as if success is inevitable. It's just a matter of time. It's going to be fine. And that helps you. It shifts your mindset. It shifts what you hear. You see things differently. It opens up. We could talk about the law of attraction and a whole lot of other laws that can bring about something different when I quit looking for what's going to go wrong and begin to look for what's going to go right. That statement in itself, if you do that every day, your life will change. It can't help but get better and better, and creating a life you absolutely love and living vibrantly.
Yeah, and definitely with your mindset of being successful as if it's just inevitable. So you put those blinders to all that distracting or
Absolutely.
type of excuses why it's not going to work. Now you just eliminated them altogether because this is not even something to be focusing on. It's not in the picture at all.
Right.
So all I know that I will get it, I will be successful because I am. There is nothing else out there for me, just
Absolutely.
that.
Yes,
And that's
yes,
what
yes.
you're gonna get.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And also, like in your practicing with other, with coaching people, have you seen any types of maybe common kind of like excuses that they come up with why they're not doing certain things? What is usually stopping them from pursuing their dreams?
I think that's a little bit different for each individual, but it all is reflected in what we've said so far, whether I'm going to look at what could go wrong or when I'm going to look at what's possible. So what if it did work out? What if it did go well? Instead of listing all the things that could go wrong. I make it sound super easy, but like I said, I didn't do that without support. I remember one day I called my coach and knew in the beginnings of Vibrant Living, we were on one of our calls and I started to cry and I'm like, I am so overwhelmed. There's just so much to do and la, la, la. If anybody else is listening has ever felt overwhelmed, and I think I wanted her to, we were virtual. So it was it wasn't where she was in present, but I wanted her to like pat me on the back and go, I know it's so hard. And, it's going to be okay. And all those kinds. She didn't do that. She said, Donna, can I explain to you what overwhelm is? I'm like, well, I'm thinking, I've got so much to do that. What do you got to explain? I don't understand the question. And she's like, can I explain to you what overwhelm is? And I'm like, okay. She said, anytime you are feeling overwhelmed, you are automatically picturing it not going well. Because no matter how big your list is, if you're proceeding as if success is inevitable, you're not overwhelmed. You do one thing at a time and you move forward. But when you're picturing it failing, when you're picturing you messing up, not getting it all done, getting in trouble, whatever it is, then we step into overwhelm. And that was a huge moment for me. I stay out of overwhelm. We don't have to go into overwhelm just because my list is long. Because come on, all of our lists are long. And so it's just a choosing where your focus is going to go. And so it makes a huge difference in making our habits and making our choices empowering so that we can live vibrantly.
Right. So in the end of the day, it's our choice where we're going to focus on pursuing our dreams. Every day, we should know that these are the steps that will bring me to that successful life that I'm picturing for myself. And it's just going to happen no matter what. Nothing will stop me from getting there. And I'm not going to be overwhelmed because we just mentioned, success is inevitable. So there is nothing that could arise anywhere in my path to distract me from where I'm going.
Yes.
And with us having that decision made for ourselves, having that faith in where we're going and knowing that we can do it, again, self-confidence, like we just mentioned, it will grow in as we go. It will just start being part of us and it will help us to achieve those type of goals.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and wisdom. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. I'm going to include the link for description of the episode for those who want to check out your website and all of the tools available. And I hope you enjoy your day.
Thank you. I will.
Thank you. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, hit the subscribe button and share it with others. Stay tuned.